Good morning, Unity of Music City. B- b- By the energy in the room, I would say everybody's in a great mood today. Everybody's ready to sing. Everybody's ready to dance. Hey to everyone online. Your energy is with us in the room today. So we're going to do two songs in a row. And the first one is specifically designed to bring joy into your being at this very moment. So let's stand up, let's sing, and let's dance. We let it be. We let the love wash over us. We let it be. We let the love wash over us. We let it be. Now show me your moves. Oh, there you go.
Go, Kendrick.
I saw that.
They didn't.
We let the peace wash over us. We let the peace wash over us. We let it be. We let the peace wash over us. We let it be. And we'll show you my moves.
All right.
All right. We let the joy wash over us. We let it be. We let the joy wash over us. We let it be. Now let me see your joy. There you go. And it all comes back to love, doesn't it? We let the love wash over us. We let it be. Yes, we do. We let the love wash over us. We let it be. Let's sing that one more time. We let the love wash over us. We let it be. Yes.
Yeah.
So it is.
Yeah.
All right, so remain standing. Let's do one more. There we go. How could anyone? Here we go. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful?
beautiful. How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How would anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How deeply you're connected. How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Thank you. You may be seated.
What's that you said about me? You brought it up. You brought it up. I did.
Good morning, Unity of Music
Good
City.
morning.
Let's begin this portion of our service by taking a deep, centering breath. Love is what connects us all. The first and most fundamental spiritual principle is love. Love for all beings, for others, for yourself, for the planet, and all creation. And we practice the truest form of love by focusing on appreciation, non-attachment, respect, and having a genuine desire to see the best in everything. We can see the highest form of love when we connect to the divine presence within us. This divine presence, which is called by many names, is the thread which binds us all together. And when we live from that place of divine love, it blesses and multiplies all that we have, all that we give, and all that we receive. Now, please repeat these affirmations after me. I am love, I am loved, and I am loving. I am love, I am loved, and I am loving. I see love in every person and every situation. I see love in every person and every situation. The love that I give to the world radiates back to me. The love that I give to the world radiates back to me. And so it is.
Well, that's very easy for me to see as I'm sitting here right now. I see love in every person and every situation. The love that I give to the world radiates back to me. I can feel it right now. So welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for being here on Palm Sunday. You see your palms. No, I'm just kidding. I want to say a special thank you for everyone who is watching us online. You are very important to us also because, believe it or not, we feel your energy here with us right now. So I want to welcome everyone. I do want to remind everybody of what our vision, mission, and purpose is as a spiritual community. Our vision is to remember the universal presence alive in each of us. Our mission is to create experiences for expanding consciousness and awakening infinite possibilities. And our purpose is we create a sacred space for authentic transformation. And so just take that in for a second and know that that's where you are today, and that's what you contribute to every week. Sherry, do we have any announcements?
We do.
All right.
We do. Okay. Well, actually, we have a lot of them today. Wednesday evening gathering at 6:30 via Zoom. It's the Connection and the Centering group. It's a check-in and centering practice with Deb Moore. Join us for an intentional, I like that word, intentional and heartfelt time of connecting as a spiritual community. The Zoom link can be found in the weekly happenings and on our website. Also, new class. Ding, 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 ding. All right, we got a new class coming up. Anatomy of the Spirit. Focusing on the brand new best-selling book, Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown. I've heard all good things about that. It's a 12-week program starting May 4th.
Thank you, Vanna.
Oh, thanks.
Call me Vanna.
Thank you, Vanna. Wow, you've changed. You have a microphone. So, yes, it's a 12-week program starting May 4th. It's $100 in advance or $10 per class. Contact Unity of Music City at gmail.com for registration details. An email regarding membership renewal has gone out. Please take a moment to respond to it and email it back to the church. Thank you for your time in doing this. You are appreciated. The prayer chaplains are available, as always, for your prayers. If you have a prayer concern that you would like the chaplains to be made aware of, you can email that prayer request to uofmcprayerrequests@gmail.com. There's also a prayer box at the back of the room if you're present today here in the room, where you can drop off your prayer concerns, and any and all prayer requests are welcome. Okay, Benita has a couple of things to say.
And this week we've got so many announcements, it takes two people to do it. We're having a town hall and community party. So most of you have been to town halls before. It's where we talk about the business, and it's just, business and boring. And we usually do it after the service, and everybody's tired and blah, blah, blah. I thought, why don't we do it on a Friday night, okay, and have some pizza and have some music and have some party time and socialization time. So we're making an evening of it. So it's partially boring in the meeting. Okay, some of it will be that boring part. But then a lot of it's going to be activities we're going to do together. Okay, so I've got some things planned. So we do need you to RSVP because we need to know how much pizza to get. We are asking you to bring $10, to cover the pizza. And so it's going to be on a Friday night, the 22nd, and everybody's welcome to come. We'd love to have you. Oh, actually, no, it's going to be at the Quality. This room's actually booked. Couldn't get it, so it's at the Quality Suites, the room just down the road. The Quality Suites, same side of the road, just up the road a bit, in their conference room. Okay. And then the next one is we're looking for a property search committee. We would like to get out of this room. So if you're interested in helping us search for a property, or if you even have any ideas of some properties that might be available that we could start looking toward, we do want to start a search committee. So again, just email Unity of Music City. Let us know of your interest to help us out, maybe to start a property search. Okay? Thank you.
And even though you might be tempted, you should come to the business meeting and stay for the party, not miss the business meeting and then come to the party. They kind of go together there. So, well, it's time for the monthly mantra, and this is the song that we sing every Sunday at about this time, and it's a song that we can take with us every week. And I want to kind of highlight some lyrics here that kind of got a chuckle last week. The last verse says, if there's some kind of trouble or pain you're going through, know that you're not alone. Know that you're not alone and someone cares for you. As an individualization of divine point of view, this door is open to you. Now that's a big word, but it says a lot. You are an individualization of divine point of view. That means that God looks through your eyes and sees the world through your eyes, so that you know you're never alone. So let's stand up and sing it. No matter where you come from, no matter where you're going, here's a place where you can take comfort in the knowing that whether if you come to stay a while, or you're just passing through, this door is open to you. Come on and be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come, love and be loved. From the blessed out to the burned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you. If there's some kind of trouble or pain you're going through, know that you are not alone and someone cares for you. As an individualization of divine point of view, this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this this door is open to you. Yes, so it is. May be seated. Hand him the mic.
Good morning. It's so good to see everybody here. Today's affirmation is, I have the strength to do what is mine to do. Everybody together, please. I have the strength to do what is mine to do. What if Judas was just playing his part? What if the whole story, the whole death and resurrection and salvation, hinged completely on Judas being willing to go down in history as the bad guy? In the theology of oneness, Judas has a Christ within every bit as much as you and I. He is divine and sacred and loved. What would have happened if he had decided to do the right thing? Or maybe the more important question is, what would not have happened? Judas laid down his life for the world. Jesus laid down his life for the world. But really, so did Judas. And we know that greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Jesus had the strength to do what was his to do. Judas had the strength to do what was his to do. And I have the strength to do what is mine to do.
So I invite you to just close your eyes. Do what works for you to center yourself. See if you can become just 5% more relaxed. Let your shoulders drop. Let your tongue fall away from the roof of your mouth. Feel yourself supported by the earth, by the chair you're sitting on. And in this very safe place, this very still and safe place, think about those times that you have known that what is yours to do was going to be difficult. In fact, if you thought about it too much, you might try to avoid it. It would seem impossible. But all the time, while you were acknowledging that difficult thing to do and contemplating it and moving toward it, all of that time, there was still within you a sacred space, a garden of peace, a place of stillness, a place of wholeness, a place that would be okay no matter what came. This place is always available to us, no matter what life asks of us. no matter what the divine asks of us. This space remains the same throughout. It is always available to us. And together now we step into this space to commune in the energy of sacred silence. In the silence. In the silence. It is in this sacred space that we are able to release our identity. We no longer have to be Jesus or Judas. We no longer have to worry that what is ours to do will feel icky, or think about how much that is good is hanging on what is ours to do. In the sacred space, it all goes away, because in that place, there is only love.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am. Letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes to see there is only love. There is only love. A love that heals, a love that sets us free. There is only love. And when I lose myself, when I feel I've lost when I go inside and quiet my mind. I can hear Spirit gently say, there is only love. There is only love. A love that heals, a love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets me free. There is only love.
Ryan. I just want to sit in that for a moment. Don't you? That was beautiful. There is only love. What a great place for us to start today. There is only love. Where am I? There we are. Palm Sunday. It's Palm Sunday. Look at that. So, years ago, talk to the poem. Years ago, when I first walked into a Unity church, I was drawn to Unity because I felt accepted, and I felt comfortable, and I felt like I could be myself, and I felt at home. But I stayed in a Unity church because of its metaphysical theology. I stayed because it allowed me to release some fundamental insistence of my youth that we better find out what actually happened. Because quite frankly, if you go back to find out what actually happened, you might have to reframe some stuff in your life. I was reading just this past week, as a matter of fact, that archaeologists have pretty much accepted for the past 4 decades that the Hebrews were never enslaved in Egypt and there never was an Exodus. Now, I'll have to do a whole other talk about that. We're not going to dive into that right now. But the great thing about metaphysical spirituality, it's kind of like my day job as an English professor. When you're interpreting literature, we don't really care if there was a Hamlet or not. We care about how it hits our heart that he struggled. We don't really care if Noah built a boat or not. What we care about is the lesson we can get about being willing to listen to the divine voice. And so when we look at the story of Jesus during this Holy Week, the beauty of metaphysical Christianity is that it allows us to step outside of trying to figure out what actually happened and allows us to just live in the heart of the story. There are some folks over the years who have suggested that perhaps Jesus didn't even exist as a human being, that he was made up by the Gnostic Christians as a symbol. Actually, historians have agreed that he did live. There's just way too much evidence. He has far more written about him than many of the really important people of that day. So it's accepted that he did live and that much of his life story was indeed accurate. But the thing is, today we're going to delete from my vocabulary this phrase that I tend to get caught up on a lot, and that is, as far as we know. I'm not going to say that this week. I'm going to simply tell the story of what happened to Jesus during this week and let it hit your heart however it hits your heart. So I'm going to tell you the story of 9 days. Now, that might seem like too many because Holy Week is 1 week, but Holy Week has 2 Sundays. So that's 8 days. And we're going to start a day before. We're going to start on Saturday, all right? This 1 week, these 9 days, I did the math this past week. Let me tell you, if you ever want to see an English professor do math, it could be a circus act. It really could. It's a thing of beauty. I did the math, though. I figured it up. And did you know that of all the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that are contained in the New Testament, that tell the story of Jesus, these 9 days take up 34% of all of those Gospels. Just over a third of the entire story of Jesus is about this week. This is the greatest story ever told. So we're going to start on day 1, and here's the way this is going to work. I got to give you instructions this week. The way this is going to work is I'm going to tell you the story of each one of these days. We're going to do 6 days this week. We're going to do 3 days next week. I know that's not an equal split, but those 3 days, they're a doozy, right? They need a little extra space, a little extra time. So we're going to cover the first 6 days, and as I go through each one of those days, at the end, I'm going to have questions for each day. So if you're one of those folks who takes pictures of the screen with your camera, then those questions might be something you want to keep in mind for this week. There's going to be 4 questions for each day. So don't worry about second question. It's going to be 4 of them. So day 1. Jesus' ministry up to this point. We know very little about Jesus' life up until the age of 30. Now, 30 would have been middle-aged in the first century. We know about his birth because of the Gospel of Luke. We know that when he was about 12, he went to the temple, and his parents lost him for a little while, and they should have had one of those like leashes that they put kids on these days. And they lost him. That's all. That's it. That's all we know. And then 30 years of a life. Think about how long 30 years is. During that time, he worked. There are some theologians who theorized that he might have been married, that he had had a family, that he lived like a normal Jewish carpenter. Because it would have been really, really weird for him to be 30 and not married, but that's not what this is about. We don't care. We don't argue about that today. At the age of 30 is when he goes into the desert and he's tempted by Satan, right? And then he goes to John the Baptist and he becomes baptized and he begins his ministry and he gathers his disciples. And for 3 years, they walk around the countryside of Judea talking to people and telling them stories and telling them parables and telling them about the kingdom of heaven. And then he started healing people. And people started paying attention because this is getting serious now and things are starting to go down. All of the things that he talked about were, we love to say that Jesus' message was all about love. I heard a guy on NPR probably 20 years ago now. Don't remember the guy, don't remember the day, don't remember the show. But I remember what he said. He said, people like to say that Jesus' message was all about love. But really, Jesus' message was inclusion. Jesus preached the message of everyone is welcome at this table, period. Now, you can't do inclusion without love. That's my belief. So we look at that and we see love, but really what it was about was inclusion. And that was enough to get people's attention. And then he started healing people, and that got people's attention. And it got some of the wrong kind of attention. And then things got a little tense, and Jesus started even predicting his own death. At a certain point in his ministry, he begins predicting his own death. So what happens on the Saturday before Holy Week? Now, we don't know if this is exactly 1 day away from Palm Sunday. But a lot of theologians put this on the Saturday before. We know it is the event in the book of John that is right before Palm Sunday, and that is the raising of Lazarus. This is a painting by Duccio, an Italian painter in the medieval period. And if you go back to the medieval period, all of the art is about Jesus because the primary customer was the church. And if not the church, it was the wealthy people who were trying to get in good with the church, one or the other. So here's what happens. Jesus is around the countryside of Judea, And Lazarus' sisters, Mary and Martha, send word to Jesus and they say, our brother is sick. Can you please come and help us? If you just came, it would be okay. And Jesus hesitates. Jesus says, we'll go in a few days. We're going to wait. Now, the way that this week is getting ready to play out is a masterpiece of timing. And we know that Jesus was already very clear about what was getting ready to happen. And he says, let's wait. If we don't know what's going down, it looks like a mistake. If we're one of the disciples, if we're Mary or we're Martha, we're looking at this going, what is your problem? Why aren't you coming along? Why aren't you taking care of this? Jesus waits for 2 days. Now, the number 2 is symbolic of harmony and balance and love. So here's Jesus waiting until things get in balance. He's waiting in the love that he has for Lazarus. He's waiting until the timing is right, the moment is right. And then he turns to his disciples and he says, our brother Lazarus has gone to sleep. I'm going to go wake him up. And so they go to Bethany, which is where Lazarus lives. And we're going to talk about Bethany in just a moment. But they go to Bethany where Lazarus lives. And when they arrive, Mary and Martha meet him. There are a lot of Jewish people around there. It's a tight community, right? All the Jewish people are hanging out there mourning the loss of their friend Lazarus. And when Jesus arrives, they say to him, you're too late. Lazarus has already been dead for 4 days. Now, 4 is the number of completion, right? A square. We've got it all squared up. Notice that he's dancing all the way around the number 3, which is going to happen next week. But Lazarus has already been dead for 4 days. And some of the people come to him and they say, if you had just been here, Jesus, Lazarus would have been okay. And you know what Jesus did? He got angry. Now, in this story is where we find the shortest Bible verse, the shortest verse in the Bible. We know what it is. What is it? Jesus wept, right? It is John, 11:35. Jesus wept. But that is sandwiched between 2 moments of Jesus being angry. Jesus is feeling the full spectrum of his emotions in this experience. He gets there, the people say, if you'd only been here, you messed up, you should have been here. Jesus gets mad. Why is he mad? The scriptures don't tell us. Is he mad because they didn't have faith? Is he a little mad at himself in that moment? I don't know that Jesus knew everything. He was just feeling the energy that was pulling him along. He had a sense of what was coming, right? What is he? We don't know why he's mad. And then he gets to the tomb and he begins to cry. And it says Jesus wept. Now, the Jesus that we've had portrayed for us for years and years and years is a Jesus that's going to be very stoic and there's going to be one little tear coming down his face. I think Jesus wept with sobbing, weeping energy, perhaps using that energy to build up for what he knew he had to do. And then he hears 2 voices. He hears some people over here saying, oh, look how much Jesus loved Lazarus. He's crying. That's so sweet. And then he hears voices over here saying, I don't know what he's crying for. If he'd have just been here, he could have saved him. What's his problem? And he's here, and Jesus gets angry again. And in that anger, he says, roll that tomb away, roll that stone away. And they roll the stone away. Lazarus comes out. Arise, come out, Lazarus. And he does. In literature, this is what we call foreshadowing, right? This is a beautiful setup for what's getting ready to happen. The ancient world had lots of stories of death and resurrection. A lot of the ancient gods were stories of death and resurrection. Jesus' story of death and resurrection is not unique. It's not unique. So this death and resurrection idea was considered one of the most sacred, one of the most godlike kind of experiences that you could have. So after he raises Lazarus from the dead, some of the folks there believe him. They're like, that's it, I'm going to be a follower. I love Jesus, going to follow Jesus now. Some of them said, this is a problem. And from that moment on, the scriptures tell us, they plotted to kill him. So, let me just briefly give you a sense of what world we're talking about here. This is a map, a very basic map of Bethany. Bethany is where Lazarus lived. It's where Jesus spent a lot of the last week of his life. Bethphage, if you're up in Sumner County, we'd say Bethpage. But in the first century, it's Bethphage. Bethphage is on the road to Jerusalem. The Mount of Olives is a little wrong on this map. They have it up here, but actually the Mount of Olives is right down south of Bethphage. This road kind of circles around the Mount of Olives. And then the Garden of Gethsemane is right outside the gates, the walls of the old city. Now here's what's important to know. Bethany to Jerusalem is under 2 miles. It's less than 2 miles. Right now, today, all of that is contained within the modern city of Jerusalem. So Jesus staying at Bethany, going to Lazarus, to heal Lazarus at Bethany, you could easily have walked into Jerusalem for lunch, met somebody at a Starbucks, had something to eat, walked back home to Bethany. So that's some perspective for you, and we'll talk more about those in just a moment. Here are the questions, the day one questions, the Lazarus questions. Is there anything I've written off as past the point of no return that the divine in me is asking me to resurrect? I didn't write that question. It was written through my fingertips somehow. Because when it came out into the computer, I had to push back for a while. And I had to think about that. What have I written off as beyond the point of no return? What is buried in my subconscious or core beliefs that needs the stone rolled away? We've had a lot of stuff carried in our self, our system, for so many years that it feels like it lives there, it feels like it belongs there, and it's got a stone in front of it. It's not going to be easy to get rid of it, but we can roll the stone away. Would I leave what I know if the divine said, arise, come out? And number 4, am I listening to too many voices? Those are the considerations I think the story of Lazarus can teach us. Day 2. Day 2, it's Sunday. It's Palm Sunday. Yippee skippy, this is what it's all about. It's today, right? And Jesus is going to enter Jerusalem. Now, let's set the stage here. This is the first day of Passover week. So Passover is a Jewish holiday. Our Jewish friends today, they're getting ready for their Passover Seder right now. Passover was a story from when the Hebrews were enslaved in Egypt. And the angel of death was going to come through and kill all the firstborn males of Egypt. But they wanted to save the Hebrew children. And so they were instructed by God to sacrifice a lamb and take the blood of the lamb and smear it at the top of the door, and the angel of death would pass over your house. So in other words, people were saved by the blood of the lamb. Right? Which is the language that we, that folks who were raised as Christians, know about Jesus during this time. Jesus is going to pass through Bethphage. He's coming from Bethany. He's going through Bethphage. He stops there and he says to 2 disciples, he sends them off and says, go down to that house over there. You're going to find a donkey and her colt. Bring them both. Tell them the master needs them. And he goes to get this donkey. He stops in Bethphage, and this is very symbolic. Bethphage is where the chief priest of the temple kept their sacrificial lambs and goats. That's where the sacrificial lamb comes from, is Bethphage. And so Jesus gets this donkey, and he enters. And this is a lot of what we saw. If you grew up in the Christian church, This is what you saw a lot of. A very happy, joyous, beautiful time. Everybody's smiling. Everybody's happy. Jesus enters through the eastern gate. That gate is called the Golden Gate. And he enters on the back of a donkey. Now, Marcus Borg is a theologian who has theorized that Pontius Pilate, who was the governor of Judea under the emperor Tiberius Augustus Caesar, Pontius Pilate would enter on the first week of Passover week through the western gate on a horse with his security detail around him and lots of wealth. So that there's actually far more symbolism than we've often thought about with Jesus entering through the eastern gate. East symbolizes birth, awakening, a new life, right? Here we come. East is also the direction of peace. The donkey is symbolic of peace. The west is symbolic of death, the end, war. The horse is symbolic of war. So Pontius Pilate comes in on a war horse through the western gate, while Jesus comes on the back of a humble donkey through the eastern gate. And the people there meet him, right? And they begin to put palms. That's the whole thing about this. They begin to put palms down. Palms are symbolic of victory, triumph, peace, and eternal life. And so these people they're basically paving the road of victory for him. Now, the Jews who were the high priest and who ran the temple, were already very suspicious of Jesus. So him entering may not have been the parade that we all like to think of it as. This celebration parade. In fact, some theologians put forth the idea that this was not so much parade as a march on Washington. This was the march into Jerusalem. This was taking their stand. It wasn't a parade, it was a protest. And the people who dared to show up were the people who said, I will stand in my truth with you. Now, Rome during that time this was part of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire went all the way up to Great Britain during this time, over most of the Mediterranean world. And the Romans had said, the Jews over in Jerusalem, we're going to let them be. It's an ancient religion. We're going to leave them alone. But Pontius, governor of Judea, you just keep them in line. And so what they had done was that they had become very politically cozy with the chiefs, the high priest of the temple, and the Roman governors. In other words, the high priest of the temple had become part of the system. They were part of the 1%. And Jesus was marching into Jerusalem to speak truth to power. Jesus is often portrayed as a white man. And I just have to get this in here, even though it kind of is thrown in there in the middle of the talk here. A lot of us grew up with the Jesus on the left, right? Jesus probably looked a lot more like the guy on the right. And let me just let you take this home with you and let it roll around in your spirit. There were no white people in the Bible. There were none. There were no white people in the Bible. All right? So I think it's important for us to make sure that we know that, we understand that. So here are our Golden Gate questions. Jesus has come in through the Golden Gate. Here are the questions that this might bring up for us to think about. Am I willing to face what I know is mine to do? Jesus knew what he was walking into. He knew this was the beginning of the end of this mortal experience for him. Am I entering through gates of peace or gates of conflict? How do I walk into something? On the back of a donkey, or am I charging on my war horse? Do I recognize the signs and synchronicities in my life and work with them rather than against them? Jesus knew what the prophets had said. Jesus knew that he was supposed to come in on the back of a donkey because it had been prophesied. Jesus understood the signs. Jesus knew that Passover meant something. And he worked with them rather than against them. And finally, do I accept the palm branches that people lay down for me? Do I let people pave the way toward my triumph of peace? Or do I say, no, I've got this. That's me. Oh, no, don't worry about it. I got it. I got it covered. Don't worry about it. When people are just trying to help. Day 3. It's Monday. Maybe a little hungover. It's been a party all day Sunday. What's going to happen on Monday, right? Is there anything that happens on Monday? I'll tell you what happens on Monday. Jesus goes to the temple. And he finds buyers and sellers and moneylenders and loan sharks and bookies. And he gets mad. A lot of anger. Jesus got a lot of anger during this week, and he's getting it out. He's been preaching love and teaching love, and people aren't getting it. And he's frustrated, and he knows what's coming. He's also probably a little anxious. The humanness of him is a little anxious during this week. And he goes in there, and he says to them, my Father's house is a house of prayer, not a den of thieves. And he gets angry, and he turns over tables, and he throws out chairs, and there he's got a whip in his hand, right? He is not playing. And it says in the scriptures that he says, now there is room for the lame and the blind to come in. Now there is room for the people seeking healing to come into the temple and to get the healing that they seek. Right? So, here are our questions for the cleansing of the temple. Am I clear about what violates my spirit? Jesus knew the second that he walked in, this is a violation of my spirit. This is a violation of my sacred journey. Right? This is not right. And I don't have to think about it. I'm just really clear about it. What causes me to feel righteous anger? I think it benefits us to know. And it's okay if you feel righteous anger. You're in great company. Righteous anger is kind of an indication to us that something has violated our spirit. What is it? That tells us a lot about ourselves when we know. What have I allowed to take up space in the temple of my spirit? Because everything that takes up space is leaving a little less room for the sacred. What have I protected and kept there? And finally, do I suppress my natural reaction to spiritual violation? I saw something this week. I saw a post that someone had posted about spiritual bypass, about the way some of us were taught with toxic positivity. Don't forget there is a healthy positivity too. But with toxic positivity, to ignore the bad, to just skip right over it and always focus on the good. And sometimes I think we use that to suppress our natural reaction to something that violates our spirit. And we need to be sensitive to that and to feel that reaction. So then, here comes day 4. What happens Tuesday? Nothing happens on a Tuesday, does it? Tacos. Thank you. Jesus and the disciples went for tacos. And I'm really upset that I did not think of that joke ahead of time to write in here. Day 4 is Tuesday. Now, Jesus knows it's coming, right? He has not only raised a man from the dead, he's marched on Washington, he's cleared the temple, he has ticked some people off. And he knows it. And he knows it's coming. So he gets up, and the disciples know that he's ticked some people off. And so they get up and they probably say something like, we're just going to lay low today, right, Jesus? I mean, like, maybe we should just head out of town for a while. And Jesus says, nope. Our days are limited. We're going to go do some teaching. Some of Jesus' most profound teaching happens on this day. He goes into Jerusalem and he begins to teach, and he teaches in parables to anyone who will listen. And the first thing that happens is that he gets questioned by the high priest. All the high priests come along and they start asking him questions. Because they want to trick him. They're trying to trap him. And Jesus is ready for it. Jesus doesn't try to avoid it. Jesus turns it around on them. In many ways, Jesus is saying, I am not in your courtroom. You are in mine. I'm going to turn this around on you. And he gets questioned by the high priest, and then they go away. And then along come the Pharisees, and they question him, and he does the same thing, and they go away. And then along come the Sadducees, and then they question him, and he turns it around on them, and they go away. And the Pharisees come back, and this happens all day long. He's playing this game with these folks, right? Now, who are these Pharisees and Sadducees and folks like this? It's kind of like pilgrims and Puritans. It gets a little confusing at times. They're all Jewish leaders, right? They're like two different sects of Judaism. And so the Pharisees were focused on the law, the Mosaic law. The Sadducees were all about temple life. It's kind of like in Victorian Britain, the people who were all about court life, right? They're all about temple life. The Sadducees would have been the people who had their private pew at the temple that they had bought and paid for and had their name on the end of it, and they were seen in the right clothes at the right time at the temple. The Pharisees believed that you could have interpretations of the Torah, and you could even have some oral guidance, divine guidance that wasn't written down. The Sadducees said, if it's not in the Torah, we don't want to hear about it. If it's not, they were very much fundamentalist. They were conservatives. The Pharisees tended to be the middle class. They were the group of the people, the Democrats, and with the small d, right? Democracy. The Sadducees were the upper class, the 1%, the ones who wanted to maintain the status quo. The Pharisees believed in resurrection of the dead, and they had a belief in the afterlife. They also believed in angels. They believed in a spirit world. The Sadducees did not believe in a spirit world at all. This world, what you see right here, this is it. You're born, you live, and then you die, which makes me wonder why they were so attached to those rules. Because if that was the case, there would be no rules in my life, right? And they tended to reject the Jewish leaders, where the Sadducees were the support. They were supporting. So here's what happens then. What ends up happening is these two groups don't like each other very much. But the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Brene Brown calls this common enemy intimacy, where I may not like you, and we don't have much in common, but we've got the same enemy, so for a moment at least, we have this idea of being on the same side, which never creates lasting bonds. So you have these folks who become aligned with each other against Jesus. And so you have, let me see here. There we go. This is the other important thing that happens that day. Among all of the great teaching of that day is that moment when someone says to Jesus, what is the most important commandment? And Jesus says to love God with all your heart and to love your neighbor as yourself. And he said, those two things, upon those two things hinge all Jewish law. All of Moses' law hinges on those. You're trying to trick me. You're trying to ask me questions of Jewish law. And I tell you, this is the be-all and end of it right here. So here, there they are. We all have an inner Pharisee. I do. I don't know if you do. I do. Here are the inner Pharisee questions that we can contemplate. What is it within me that is ruled by legalism? I can think of a couple things in me already, and I'm not going to say them because you're not going to use them against me. All right. What is it that creates obstacles to loving the divine and loving my neighbor as myself? I don't know about you, but I don't always love my neighbor as myself. What is it that stops that? Have I ever taken the time to stop and examine what is it that gets in the way of that for me? Am I able to separate the teacher from the truth? One of the things Jesus said to his disciples was, hey, listen, these Pharisees and Sadducees, they're good teachers of the law. Listen to them in regards to the law, but don't follow them. Follow their teachings, don't follow them. They don't know what they're doing. They're not living the life. They're not walking the talk. So are we able to separate the teacher from the truth? I've had to do a lot of that over the last couple of years. During the pandemic, I've had some teachers I followed who came out with some ideas that didn't exactly align with the way I saw the world. And I had to decide whether I throw the baby out with the bathwater or not. Right? Or do they still have something valuable to say that I can follow? And finally, am I able to speak truth to power even when the power is my own ego. The Pharisees and the Sadducees are symbolic of our ego mind. That is the first power that I have to speak truth to, is that power within me that tries to get in the way. Okay. Okay. There we go. Is it in focus? You sure? You want to get another one? Okay. Day 5. It's Wednesday. For Holy Week, they call this Spy Wednesday. There are 2 important things that happen on Wednesday. Jesus is eating at the house of a friend, Simon the leper, in Bethany. And this woman comes up, Mary, the sister of Lazarus, and she has some very, very expensive perfume, and she anoints Jesus' feet. Now, Jesus equates this to being anointed for burial. He says it, I'm being anointed for burial. But here's what happens. Some of the disciples get ticked off. I mean, the pressure's on. Things are getting really tough right now. And Judas is the treasurer of the disciples. And what happens is we often, if you're the treasurer, we have a tendency to see everything through the eyes of how much will it cost. If we're the musician, we see everything through the eyes of what music do you want there, right? If we're in charge of the children's program, how many children will there be? What will I need to prepare? We see things through the eyes of what we're experiencing. And Judas sees this, and he has a little fit. And he says, well, that could be sold. You know how many poor people we could feed with that? Now, honestly, how many times have you said that same thing? How many times have you looked at a mega mansion or the cost of that televangelist suit, said how many poor people could be fed with that? I have. If you just said how many people, and Jesus stops them and says, you will always have the poor with you. Feels a little harsh for Jesus, doesn't it? But you will not always have me. She is anointing me for burial, right? So Judas gets ticked off, and this is when Judas makes his decision. Judas leaves, and he goes and makes his bargain. He's had it. I can't get this guy to pay attention to the money. I can't get him to think about how little we have left. I'm done. It's all going to go down anyway. I might as well get something out of it. And he goes off and he makes a bargain with the chief priest of the temple that he will turn Jesus over for 30 pieces of silver. We all make bargains. These are the bargain questions. Have I anointed the feet of the Christ within me? Have I treated the sacred in me sacredly? What am I seeing in tunnel vision that could benefit from a broader view? Am I only seeing through the eyes of Judas or through the eyes of the treasurer? What have I sold too cheaply? And when do I see myself aligning with my soul's enemy? Because that's what happened. And then finally, day 6. Day 6 is Maundy Thursday. We're going to talk about just a moment of it here, and then we'll finish it next week. Maundy Thursday is when they prepare to meet and have the Passover supper. This is the Last Supper painted by Da Vinci. If you've ever get the opportunity for a good art historian to go sit and listen to a lecture they'll give on this painting, go. A good art historian can talk for 3 straight hours on this painting right here. It's a whole semester. You could do a whole semester on this painting. But there's a couple things I want to point out really quickly. Da Vinci has painted the disciples in groups of 3. There are 3 windows, Trinity. There's the lintel here is almost like a halo behind Jesus' head. You see Jesus reaching with 2 arms, almost like a triangle, like the Trinity. With one hand, it's open. He's receiving. With the other hand, it's taking. These 3 right here are John the Beloved, Peter, and Judas. Judas is clutching a bag of money in one hand. And with the other, he's reaching forward to steal John's roll. right? And so, but notice this. Both Jesus and Judas, they're the only two people who have a hand like this, reaching out for something, and they're both reaching in the same direction. They have their dinner. Jesus predicts his betrayal. He has them engage in communion with him. Charles Fillmore saw the bread as the substance and the wine as the energy. Notice that Judas is reaching for the bread, the substance. Jesus is reaching for the wine, the energy. Right? Jesus also predicts Peter's denial. And then, when supper's over, Jesus goes to the Garden of Gethsemane to pray. And this is when he is unable to keep the disciples awake 3 times, that magical number 3 times. And in all of those prayers, he prays, let this cup pass from me. If there's any way I wouldn't have to do this, I'm willing to entertain that idea, God. Could you please? But ultimately, he comes back to, not my will, but thine be done. And so the questions we have around the supper questions, I almost called these the grace questions because it's eating and prayer. Have I sat down to eat with that which opposes me? Have I offered hospitality to something that is working against me? Have I released that which opposes me to do as it will? That's what Jesus had to do. He said to Judas, go and do what you have to do. Have I prayed? That's a very simple question, but it may be the most important question here. Have I gone into the garden and have I prayed? Have I just talked it up? Have I just said, oh, yeah, I'll pray for you, and then walked away, and that's the last thing that ever happens? Have I taken the time in the garden to pray, and then have I completely let it go? Because that's what Jesus does in the garden. He prays, and then he lets it go. It's in your hands, God. These are the first 6 days of Holy Week as I see them. I'm sorry, there's your picture of the questions. Next Sunday, we're going to look at the last 3 days. Easter Sunday will be the Triumph of Peace, Part 2. Ultimately, this is what we're talking about. Jesus as the Prince of Peace, triumphing over all of the forces of darkness and war and Pontius Pilate. Namaste. You're good. You're good.
My goodness. Not only have I learned a lot, I feel a lot differently about this story now. And I can't wait for next week. Well, let's take a moment to be in gratitude. Gratitude for everyone that's here. Gratitude for all of the abundance that we have in our lives. Let's just say thank you for that. I want to remind you of the several different ways that you can give financially through PayPal, the red bucket in the back. We have automatic bank draft. I see that you can sign up on PayPal to have an automatic withdrawal too. So that's really cool. And through Amazon Smile and the Kroger Rewards card. But you can also give of your time and your talents. There's so many different ways to give back to your spiritual community. Financial is just one, and all 3 are really important. So as we think about that, let's say our abundance blessing together. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I choose to give, all that I am open to receive. And we are grateful. So let's all sing, I'm grateful. I am grateful for another day of living. Grateful for a new chance to forgive. I'm grateful to receive life's many blessings.
for the love I have to give. I am grateful for another day of living. Grateful for a new chance to forgive. I'm grateful to receive life's many blessings. And I'm grateful for the love I have to give. And I'm grateful for the love I have to give. Let's all stand. Sherry, will you lead us in the prayer for protection?
Will. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Life is good. And we are truly blessed. All is well. Life is good. We are truly blessed. All is well. Life is good. We are truly blessed. All is well, life is good. We are truly blessed. All is well, life is good. We are truly blessed. All is well, life is good. We are truly blessed. All is well, life is good. We are truly blessed. We are truly blessed. We are truly blessed. So it is. Y'all have a great week. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next Sunday for Easter Sunday.